6, and that's the University of Illinois Extension Service. So I always ask, how many of you have heard of the University of Illinois Extension? Okay, so we've got a couple that have heard. And have you heard of 4-H?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, 4-H is, we're the agency that houses 4-H, and so that's typically where the familiarity comes from. When you say 4-H, then people start to say, oh, okay, I know who Extension is. But really, Extension is so much more than 4-H, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But from what I'm going to do is I'm going to present to you the history of where Extension, how it come about in our country, and where we are in Illinois with Extension services. And then I'm going to drive it down to, you all live here in Southern Illinois, in the southern 5 counties, right?
Yep.
So you're taxpayers in the 5 counties, and so I'm going to show you what your tax dollars are doing in this area. So
That'd be interesting to know since my property taxes go up every year.
yeah, well, you're looking at your property taxes at work right here.
Okay, I can live with
So-
this one. As long as it's useful.
Yeah.
I always thought it was to create potholes.
Well, and that gets into my closing line, but so I'm feeding you where I'm going with this, and typically this is similar to what I do in front of your county boards every year. I have to go and ask for appropriations, but we'll talk about that shortly. So what I'm showing you here, this is the southern 5 counties, the territory that I'm the director of. My name's Jody Johnson. I'm the County Extension Director with the University of Illinois Extension. I have been the director since 2006. Initially started as a community and economic development educator. So my background is actually doing community projects, community development and economic development. A lot of grant writing projects in that line. Working with engineers, working with municipalities. So we have the 4 offices serving the 5 counties. The main office is in Vienna, and then we have one in Metropolis, one in Anna, and one down in Mounds.
Where's the one in Anna? I know where Vienna Street is.
Next to Bunny Bread, right?
Yep, if you know where the old Bunny Bread plant is, that 4-way stop.
Yeah.
If
Are
you turn
across the
north,
street?
if you go north into that,
Very back.
in the very back.
I've taken Chuck Wilkins to there.
Yep. Chuck's he's a good friend of mine.
He's an interesting person.
He is.
You better like cows.
Yep. He's represented us, and I'll talk about our unit council, and he's represented Union County many times, and has volunteered for us too. So, the purpose of mission statement of the University of Illinois Extension, I should say Extension in general, is to enable people to improve their lives and communities through learning partnerships that put knowledge to work. And hopefully through the presentation, I can explain this more. Back in 1862, a guy named President Lincoln, he enacted the Morrill Act, which founded the land grant college system. And what that done was the Morrill Act challenged states to set aside public lands for the purposes of creating universities. And that's, yeah, and at that time there were 37 states that participated in the Morrill Act and created this land grant college system. So when you hear that University of Illinois is the land grant college, that's what it's referring to.
Did the federal government give monies or assistance in other ways through this law? Or
Yeah, well, yes, there were monies that were, because I want to say it was $600,000 that was used to purchase where the University of Illinois is today. So in 1885, the Commission of Agriculture, which was the future, you've heard of USDA, that was created, and it was to partner with the land grant schools. Remember, what was society back in the late 1800s. What was our primary economic engine for the country?
Farming.
Absolutely. So it was agriculture. And so at the universities, research was being done, and with that research, what they were finding out, all of these advances in agriculture were happening there at the universities, but it wasn't going anywhere. It was staying right there on campus. So in 1887, the Hatch Act passed, and that aimed at supporting the establishment of an agriculture experimentation station in each state. But then it also, where the research became the essential knowledge base of agriculture education, which we know was over 90% of the population at that time. But there became the need to communicate with rural areas, which led to the extension service. So initially, the idea was to get that research-based information from the universities out into the communities via the extension service. Without aging yourselves, how many of you have seen Green Acres? Remember the old the television show Green Acres?
They were not reruns.
Oh, no.
They were reruns.
There was actually an extension agent who would come out and talk to.
Come out and talk to Mr. Douglas.
Right.
I remember that, the little geeky looking guy.
Yep. He would always come out from the extension. He was the extension agent, and that's what he was doing, is he was helping him with farm questions. So.
Huh.
That's funny.
It was delivered to the farmer.
Yep.
He was always in that state looking jacket kind of uniform they had back then.
So in 1914, this is a very critical act for extension. The Smith-Lever Act was passed, and this was Congress's attempt to receive official support of a program that was already taking place, because we were working with it wasn't USDA at the time, but we were working with the federal agency side as well as with our research, but it combined the activities of the land grant colleges with USDA efforts. So USDA wanted to apply the research to actual farm conditions through demonstrations. And in 1953, it was amended to include home economics and subjects relating thereto, which then that opened the door for many more opportunity. Instead of it just being ag related, now all of a sudden, you think about the 1930s and 40s, 50s, the homes were changing, home economics, there were new appliances coming in, the way food was prepared, all of these changes. And so there was research that was being done in that area that also had information available to the public. But, before this, the extension service wasn't tapped as delivering those.
Does this have something to do with home economics classes that they used to teach in high school? I don't know if they still
Well,
do.
the way I would answer that is I'm fairly certain that there was information used in those classes that probably came from the land grant institutions.
I learned how to cook the first time.
So,
Been bad ever since.
relating thereto, which opened the door, like I said, to 4-H youth development. So there's youth development programs, community and economic development would be another area that slides in there.
So this just keeps growing and growing, doesn't it?
It's government. The new land grant college system gave all people access to the universities. Early in 1867, the Illinois Industrial University, which was the forerunner of the University of Illinois, responded to the Morrow Act. Smith-Lever that's the federal funds that could be matched, and then the General Assembly accept the provisions and assigned the University of Illinois to carry out the program. So what we're talking about now is we went from the federal level now at the state level. Our state legislation, there's an act, legislation that was passed, I want to say it was in 1913, it was initial initially passed. I think I referenced it in the next slide. But they recognized all of the federal dollars that were being designated, and they created the opportunity for state funding to match that. I guess I did. Okay. So extension's based on, it's based within the College of Agriculture, Consumer, and Environmental Sciences at the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana. It is one of the original 2 colleges at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign, which dates all the way back to, what do we say, 1876, 70. Program areas include ag and natural resources, family consumer sciences, 4-H youth development, community and economic development. So if you wanted to transfer to the College of ACES, we don't have social work isn't part of that program. It's in the liberal arts college. However, I would challenge you that there's probably something similar in one of these areas that if you wanted to pursue. So going back to our statewide makeup of extension, there's 27 units across the state. In 2010, 2011, there was 66. So instead of seeing these 27, you would have seen 66 different ones. And what that means from a social agency standpoint, there were 66 directors like myself. So, I mean, that, if you're budgeting, you know, that's dollars. Administrators are dollars.
All downsizing.
Usually administrators aren't on the ground doing program work. And so, you know, they're behind the scenes, they're just an administrative cost. So, without any, no one made us do it. We did it ourselves. We underwent our own self-imposed reorganization. So we went from 66 units down to 27. So we went from 66 administrators down to 27. So that gave us a pretty good pool of money, because the money hadn't changed. The money that was coming in to support a system for 66 units was still there. So the money saved, we were able to bank for a rainy day, and more than a rainy day came. It was a thunderstorm that wouldn't stop, you know, figuratively. That gets into 2016, 2017. Well, I'll tell you, the state of Illinois didn't give extension any monies at all. So the governing authority over the state and local partners for extension in Illinois, this is the county cooperative extension law. It authorizes councils like Chuck Wilmeister. He was a volunteer that serves on a unit council. The unit council, which you'll see in the book that I gave you in the back, it lists names of all of our council members from across the 5 counties. Hopefully there's a name in there that you recognize, maybe no. But then we have extension boards. The extension board is the the volunteers who come and they help me with the fiscal side of it. So the unit council helps on the programmatic, helping us identify needs in the community that need to be addressed. The extension board, they're the volunteers who help with the financial oversight of the unit. And the law also specifies the process for state matching funds. In the law, it states that the state of Illinois may give a dollar for dollar match to the University of Illinois Extension for monies raised locally. And what that means is the monies that you pay in property taxes or monies that we garnish from donations. At one time, the state of Illinois was giving us $1 for every dollar that we raised locally. So if I raised $100 local, the state of Illinois would give us $100.
I noticed you said at one time.
At one time, yeah.
Not this time.
No. So I mean, you live in Illinois, so you know the financial distress that we've been in, and I've shared with you already that we didn't receive any state funding for 2 years. In those instances, donations weren't getting matched. However, because we took the proactive action that we did in 2010, 2011, we had quite a bit of, in our storehouse, of federal funds that's helped us get through these times.
Are they matching anything now?
Now they are, yes.
Percentage or?
Well, if you as a person come to me and say, Jody, I want to give $100 to Extension. What my company line is to you, and it's me, it's not official from anybody, but I figure I tell you that you're going to get 50 cents on the dollar, because with what we have in carrying forward, we're probably going to get that at least. And I figure it's easier for me to come back and say, hey, we got more than 50 cents. We ended up getting 85 cents. So, you know, you as a person making a donation, that sounds a lot better.
Coming back saying, yeah, I only got 30 cents.
Yeah, yeah. So the next time it comes to an opportunity for you to donate, it's not going to be so hard for you to make that decision, is it?
It's how I quote prices on cars.
So,
Start high, that way it looks like you saved the money.
yeah. Alright. The 4-H name, like I prefaced at the beginning, how many of you have heard of 4-H? Well, 4-H, this is a very, very close kept branding item. You cannot use this in this area in our 5 counties without my approval. They give the authority to the local county directors on the use of the 4-H emblem. We can't put this on any food items. We can't, and I'll give you the example. I was trying to partner with Dippin' Dots probably about 7-8 years ago. They had a product called 4-H Rocks, and they had the traditional Dippin' Dots, green and white dot, with the rock pop, the candy, you know, the candy that pops in your mouth. And so, I mean, so it was a wonderful product. It made a lot of sense. You know, it would have promoted 4-H. It would have been good for Dippin' Dots. It was just a win-win all the way around. Well, in the USDA law, federal law, it says that no food can be affiliated with, endorsing of 4-H. And the reason is because of it being the USDA is a food. I don't know that was their reasoning, but you can imagine lawyers today are fearful of somebody being yes. So unfortunately, that project has set and not went anywhere. Yeah. I mean, you think of the Girl Scouts and the Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah.
So.
Doesn't milk sometimes say USDA on it? USDA approved or something?
So does meat, but
Yeah.
see, that's not 4-H.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right.
That
I mean,
just
they
means
have
you're
that.
looking for
Their
that.
inspectors have come.
Yeah, you want to
and
know
put
that
their-
it was inspected.
Right. Yep. So this gets into our administrative structure. We are in, and like I said, underneath the College of ACES, which has the Dean Kimberly Kidwell. Dean Kidwell, she is our 9th dean in the school's history, first female to take the as the dean. We have a new director as of this January, Director Shelley Nichols Richards, who's a faculty person on campus. I had the opportunity to bring her down in last September. Gave her a quick tour of our area. I love to show the persons in the ivory towers. I love to bring them down and show them southernmost Illinois because we are unique. You know, our taxing structure, our taxing ability just isn't there. One of the first places I take them to is Alexander County. I take them to Cairo, show them and tell them the story. You know, how Cairo was the regional shopping hub in the area, and just over a course of time and unfortunate circumstances have caused it to be what it is today, which from a government standpoint is not a very good taxing district for us to collect tax dollars from. And so my next line to them is, when you're sitting in Champaign and you have these unfunded mandates that you're going to push on one of our 27 units, remember me, because I can't go out here to my taxing districts and ask for more money because it's just not there. So.
Is Alexander the poorest county in Illinois? I thought it was something, I thought it was a different one.
No, it's right there. It's right there. If you look at our lower 16 counties, Pulaski and Alexander are right there. And then it's not too far behind is Hardin.
Yeah.
Hardin, believe it or not.
Do they even have a stoplight in Hardin?
I don't think so. I know that's one of my taglines. Is that, Pulaski and Johnson, I think, are two